All right, welcome to part 5, the final part of this tutorial series about building restoration. So in this one, we're going to try to fix some of the damaged tiles here in the front of the facing building there. Let me zoom in on this so you can see some of the parts we need to fix. So we want to try to restore some of these tiles so they look clean, so they don't have like this deteriorated rust look on it. And so there are lots of different tools that we can use for this kind of thing. Um, Particularly over here, there's this thing that looks like a Band-Aid, and it's called the Spot Healing Brush Tool. That's going to be one of our tools in this. And two tools beneath that is the Clone Stamp tool. That's where we can clone pixels from one place to another within our workspace. There are some really important things to understand, though, when you're using these two healing brushes. One, it should be non-destructive, so it should be on another layer. But where that layer is makes a huge difference. So let me demonstrate that to you in a way here. So first of all, let's pretend like we're just doing it on the very top. So we're going to make a new layer. And let me call this one healing. So there are a couple of important things that we want to do. You want to make sure that sample all layers is checked, because if you don't have it checked, it's going to try to sample from your empty layer and there will be no pixels. Also over here, I want to make sure that my hardness is set to 0 so that any changes I make are blended well with the rest of the design. So let's say I come down here and I want to get rid of one of these spots here. I just make my brush just as big as the thing that I'm trying to clone away. So I can make it bigger with my right bracket key or smaller with my left bracket key. And those are next to the P key on the keyboard. And I just click once. It's going to sample from another area. I didn't do a great job, but I can try it again. There. And so I just rubbed a little bit on it and it works. Same is true for a design, an area of your design, such as this long one here in the sort of the 6th set of panels. If I just click and drag along it like this, and I let go, it should do a good job of cloning it and healing it. So that's how that brush works. Sometimes it will give you a bad healing, and then you'll have to just undo and do it again. So that's all well and good, right? That's one way of doing it with spot healing. But it's really important about where that layer is, okay? So it's on the very, very top right now, which works unless I decide later that I want to start messing with some things I did earlier. So you remember how I did some gradients and some photo filters and levels? Well, if I click on this levels adjustment layer and start to change some things, look, you can see the areas that I did some spot healing. I did one here as well. Because this levels adjustment layer is affecting the building, but it's not affecting it above this layer. And so it's really important that if you're going to do this on the very top, that you do not want to change anything. Now, let me show you what happens if I go put it down here right above my original building. So here's the building, new layer. And I guess it's okay if it clips to that layer, that's fine. But if I want to heal something, I've got sample all layers on and I've got my brush being soft. Let's go find another piece. How about this area here? If I click and let me try it again, heal it. You'll notice how it's not quite the right color. So what's happening here is it's sampling all layers. So it's sampling from what it sees, but then this adjustment layer up here gets applied again. And so if you're trying to apply it and you already have adjustments layers turned on, you'll need to turn those off. Okay. And you can ignore this one at the top for now. Let me show you without it. So what I need to do is if I'm going to make if I'm going to make a healing brush here, I need to make sure that all of these adjustments are off so that when I paint it, when I heal it, It's really tough because it's the same color as my brush. So I'm going to click this. It does a good job of healing it, right? And then I can turn on my adjustment layers again later, and it still looks good, okay? Except for that bad spot that we made. And once again, if you're ever on a healing layer, a separate layer, and you just make a mistake, you can grab the eraser tool, because all you're really doing is erasing some pixels that you drew on another layer. So I can get rid of that, and it shows the original. So those are kind of the important parts about painting. So to review, either paint it all the way on the top if you're definitely done making adjustments, or paint it right above the layer and below your adjustment layers, but turn off your adjustment layers while you're making those clones and healing adjustments. So I've done some healing on this layer. Let me do a little bit more with my adjustment layers off. This is the way I prefer to do it on the original, with my adjustment layers above it in case I want to change anything later. So I'll heal this and this, and this works all great till you have something a little bit more complicated. So the way that I'm going to try to deal with this block is I can't quite heal it all, is I'm going to try to find another panel that looks very similar to it and clone the pixels over to it. Okay, so perhaps I like this one because it has that same curve and that shadow in it that I can use for this, even little corner here. So I think I'm going to use my clone stamp tool and sample from here, from this corner, and then start painting it in over here to heal this deteriorated area. And I'm going to add another one just called cloning. I like to keep my healing and cloning separate from one another because they do different things. My adjustment layers are off. I have sample for all layers turned on, and my brush is super soft. So hardness is all the way down. So in order to start the process, you have to Option or Alt click. See, my little target shows up. So I'm going to go right in this corner because it's also a nice reference if you're in a corner. So I'll click there and release. And now when I come over here, you'll see it's ready in that corner to paint pixels. So I'll click and hold and drag, and you'll notice if you look up there, there's a little plus sign that's following me around. As I move my brush around, there's a plus sign that's sampling pixels from the area that I targeted. So that's doing a pretty good job of cleaning that up. It seemed to miss a little bit here. See how that's a little off? So if that ever happens, you can undo. You can try to resample. This time I'll go right for the corner where the lines cross and then start from that corner. See, that's already more aligned. And I'll paint again. So that's doing a better job. And I'll just be really careful to kind of just stay within the bounds of that one square for now. And of course, all I did was take so there's a little deterioration, little spots over here, and I put it over here. Not a big deal. I can go to my healing layer, although I'm going to need to change my healing layer to be above my cloning at this point because otherwise it won't show up. And then I can go back to my healing, and I can heal some of those little spots in there so they're not showing up anymore. Okay, so that's how we can start to do the process of cleaning up any areas that we want to restore and make a lot better. And this is going to take a while. And this may take me a half an hour or 40 minutes to do just right. But I'm not going to do the whole thing in the tutorial. But I thought I'd show you some tricks. Basically, remember, when you're doing healing and cloning, do it on its own layer. Have sample all layers on with a soft brush. And if you're going to do it underneath your adjustment layers, have them turned off while you're doing the process. I'm going to turn them back on now. And then we get that good looking building again with some of the healing and cloning that I did. All right. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed that.